My name is Ted Phillips. I am the chair of the JEA Awards Committee, and I would like to call our March 27th, 2025 awards meeting to order. We have a physical quorum present represented by myself, Ted Phillips, Jody Brooks, and Gary Baker is here for Ricky Erickson. Thank you, Gary. OGC is represented by Rebecca Levy. Budget is represented by Stephanie Neely. Did we receive any public comment via email?
No public comments were received.
All right. We have no one in person. Is there anyone who is on the call today from the public who would like to make a public comment? If so, please unmute yourself and you have the floor. Hearing none, we will move on. On today's agenda, we have items 1 through 3, 5 and 6, and 8 through 10. They have been approved by procurement, budget, OGC, legal, the business unit, VP, and chief, and our awards are ready for the awards committee approval. Items 4 and 7 have been moved to the regular agenda for discussion. Before we take a vote on the consent agenda, would anyone like to move any other items to the regular agenda for discussion or deferral to another week?
Yeah, I'd like to move number 3 for discussion, please.
All right.
Regarding item 6, we don't need to move it to the regular agenda, but I would like to amend the procurement type that the items listed under. It's listed as a piggyback, and it should be listed as a cooperative procurement. So if we can make that change, and then just whoever makes the motion to approve the consent agenda, just to approve it as amended, that will take care of that.
All right. So any other? So I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 and 2, 5 and 6, 8 through 10, and 6 as suggested amended by Rebecca. If I could get a motion?
So moved.
Second? All right. So that was Jody with the motion, Gary with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. So we will move to our 3 items on the regular agenda. The first being item 3 from the consent agenda. Jody, you had a question on that or wanted to speak about that?
Yeah, thank you, Ted. I was just curious about the way that this is structured now, as it being a 1-year contract. It looks like the bids came in for a 5-year term, and then you're splitting it to award it to 2 of the vendors. But do they recognize that the cost is going to be an average of just a half a year per contract? Because the total amount being awarded to each of the vendors is $635,000. If you were to look at their pricing, their 1 year for each of these vendors would have been a little bit like 1.2 million per vendor. I'm just kind of curious about that the vendors understand that they're getting contracts for $635,000. Can someone explain the pricing here on this one for me?
Sure.
Does that make sense what I'm saying, what I'm asking about?
It does. So this is Kenneth Pearson, procurement. It does make sense what you're asking there. So these are a blanket agreements in which, as projects emerge, we will assign work to the various suppliers. And we have a few of these for different areas of the business based upon the expertise of the suppliers relative to the work needed. And this will be used at generating stations largely. And these are two of the incumbents that do the work today. And as projects come, instead of going and bidding out and not leveraging our volume, we use best practices and leverage all of our volume and say, we'll give work to Cogburn, we'll give work to Premier Communications, and we'll go back and forth between those as projects need the work to be done. So we will, as we start consuming up this money, we will possibly need to come back to you all as projects come about.
So each of these agreements will be not to exceed $635,000. I was just concerned that the type of work that they're going to be doing was going to be exceeding that threshold pretty quickly.
No,
And then there's also, it says you're going to rebid it. So the awards are just a 1-year contract. It looks like there's 2 1-year renewals. Is the other part to this? I mean, does the contract have 2 1-year renewals in them?
so they will have the option of that. That is not our intent to utilize those at this time. Our plan is to rebid these things. And any large project, so sometimes we will do large work on transformer rewiring. That will be a substantial project. We will bid that individually. And that goes and allows us to use this not to exceed in small value projects. So over $10,000, but oftentimes less than $50,000 to $100,000, less than that amount. And that's how we consume this up. Any large projects, we bid those individually.
Okay, thank you, Kitty.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the first item on the regular agenda, which was the third item on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. So we will move to our next item. So this was item 4 on the consent agenda. That is now item 2 on the regular agenda. I had one question on this. So it looks like the price of this was a couple of $100,000 more than what the business unit estimate was. And in the explanation, it says that additional scope added, which included a concrete pad and roll-up door installation, was not included in the original estimate. So, I mean, those things seem like fairly standard things. I mean, you got to put things on pads and have doors to close. I was just curious, was the plan to have a separate person do that, a separate vendor do that, or was that just an oversight, or how did we miss that in the scope?
Good morning. This is Jamila Akray, Manager of Capital Projects at Generation. The pad, the concrete pad, so the difference in the cost is about $230,000. It is due to a couple of factors. One was added scope, which was less than $50,000. And that scope was initially not included because it was originally believed that we could use the existing facility to house the equipment and transport it in and out. At a later time, as we were completing the details of the design, it was determined that we needed a roll-up door. This is heavy equipment, and it was better design and access to the equipment to add the roll-up door and the concrete pad outside of the roll-up door so that it can help with that access. So that was $50,000, about $50,000 of the added scope for the difference in price. The rest of it was due to the material cost and the labor associated with it. This project includes about 16,000 linear feet of 500 MCM copper cable. Our estimate was done in February 2023, and the pricing that we received this year, there was a gap, so there's escalation in the pricing of copper. This is about 12 tons of copper. So we believe that the rest of the cost difference was associated with that. And then in addition to that, there's some of it associated with the labor. There is a shortage in the resources from what we understand. And we can see that it is demonstrated by the difference in price for the other two bidders. The next bidder was 1.5 times higher than the lowest bidder, and the third bidder was twice the price. So some of the cost difference is associated with finding the labor, maybe housing them, feeding them while they're doing the project, bring them from basically outside of the area to support the project. I hope this answered the question. If there's anything else I can help with, I'll be happy to add.
Thank you, Jamela. That's what I needed to hear. I appreciate that. One request I would make is if we've got an estimate that's 2 years old, maybe we update the estimate before we go out for bid, so we kind of have an idea of what we're looking at. But I appreciate your explanation. That makes more sense about the pad and the door. So with that, are there any other questions for item number 4? That's now item number 2.
I don't have any, but one of my questions was the disparity between the 3 bids, but Jamela responded to that already. Thank you. Move to approve the item. Second.
That was Jody with the motion, Gary with the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is adopted. So our last item is number 7, which will now be number 3 on the regular agenda. So this is for some switchgear. So my question on this was that it was broken out between Powell Electric and switchgear power systems, with, it looks like the majority of the award going to Powell, but when it showed the total pricing on it, Powell's pricing was about $800,000 more than switchgear, but then switchgear only got about 10% of the award versus 90% to Powell. I was just looking for a little bit of explanation on that.
Yes, so this is Kenny Pearson of procurement. I'll speak to that one. So there's actually 3 different switchgear projects that exist. We will be assigning Georgia Street to SBS or to Powell, College Street to Powell, and then we'll be doing Kennedy to SBS. In addition to that, College Street is actually less expensive than Powell. So both Powell and Kennedy will be going to the least expensive of those respective substations.
Okay.
Only the Georgia Street will be where Powell is the more expensive supplier of the 2. The reason that we assigned them more work than SBS is because as an RFP, it was an evaluated bid. They were notably higher overall evaluated.
Okay.
We wanted to split the award though, based upon, a joint desire between the business, the standards department and us to try and develop additional supply base, and mitigate our risk through additional suppliers.
Thank you, Kenny. That helps. I appreciate it. Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
So second.
So that was Gary with the motion and Jody with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. All right. So items 1 and 2, 5 and 6, and 8 through 10 of the consent agenda have been approved, and items 1, 2, and 3 of the regular agenda have been approved for the March 27th, 2025 meeting. Is there any other business that needs to come before the awards committee this morning? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, Janella and Kenny, for the explanations. And I hope you have a great rest of the week. And we're going to move out of this cold room. Thank you.